If you've ever doubted that God is calling you to a work, whatever that looks like, whether it be a promotion, a business, a ministry opportunity, writing that book, starting that blog, putting yourself out there in a particular type of way. If you've ever doubted, if you've ever questioned, if you've ever wondered whether or not it is indeed God speaking, you're in good company, because the man who we're going to look at in the Bible today had exactly the same struggles, and he went on to do mighty things. So if this is the encouragement that you need to go on and do your mighty thing for God, for the kingdom, then make sure you stay tuned. Hello, welcome to Nurture Notes. My name is Naomi Aidoo. If you are new here, then welcome. I post a brand new Nurture Note, which is a practical and biblically based devotional, here every single Monday on YouTube, and also via my newsletter in written format. If you are not yet a subscriber to the channel, then please do click subscribe. It takes 2 seconds for you, but it means more than you know for someone like me creating this free content, and it means that it's showing that people want to engage with it, people are interested, and it means that YouTube then also recognize the same thing. So if you could do that, that would be grand. If you're also wanting to get these sort of devotional encouragements via written format, then you can subscribe to my newsletter and you get this into your inbox, including the video link, every single Monday. You can do that via the link in the description. So we are concluding today our series around what it looks like when we are stuck. What it looks like when we're stuck. When we don't know what to do, or we're not sure how to move forward, or we're not sure we should move forward. And we've looked at 4 different things thus far. Week 1, we looked at when we look at ourselves more than we look at God. That's how we stay stuck. Week 2, we looked at when we live in fear and we therefore shrink back. That's why we stay stuck. Week 3 is when we fear change more than we fear staying the same. Week 4, we looked at the fact that we seek permission. That was last week, when we're kind of like waiting for permission from someone else when God's already said go. And this week kind of encapsulates all of them, but we're looking at doubt. Perhaps it's doubt that you're the person for the job. Doubt that you're actually going to be able to do what it is that God's calling you to do. Doubt that you are indeed called and that maybe you just think you're making it up. Whatever that doubt is, that's the theme that we're addressing today. And we are looking at Moses. Now, I wrote a study about Moses, which is what the bulk of the written text is in today's Nurture Note, for a devotional I called Feast, which I wrote a decade ago now almost. It was at the end of 2016. And I wrote about someone in the Bible, a person in the Bible, and the life that they lived every single day for 30 days. And Moses was one of them. And the theme, because there was a theme every day as well, was doubt. And so that's where a lot of today's content is from. Interestingly enough, that whole devotional in abbreviated form, which is actually kind of hard to do because these devotionals in written form were like around 1,000 words each. But it's condensed down into YouVersion now. So if you go to the Bible app and type in Feast, or you type in Naomi Aidoo, you'll be able to find the entire devotional. One of those days will be on Moses, which is what we're going to be covering today, looking at the theme of doubt. So Moses was called to some extraordinary things by God, right? But it was more what we want to look at today, the way in which he was called, as we begin. Because if we look at chapter 3 of Exodus, at the beginning it says, Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. So already we're thinking to ourselves, this doesn't seem like something that would necessarily happen in the natural, although let's give Moses the benefit of the doubt. Perhaps it's just like a fire that's randomly started itself. Maybe it's really hot. Let's go and investigate. Sure. So he does that. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. So Moses thought, I will go over and see this strange sight. Why does the bush not burn up? When the Lord saw that Moses had gone over to look, God called him from within the bush, Moses, Moses. Moses said, here I am. And then God says, take off your sandals, where you're standing is holy ground. Now, God essentially at this point commissions Moses. He's saying he's seen the misery of his people. He's saying he wants Moses to be the one who leads the Israelites out of Egypt, and he's got a big ask on his hand, right? And Moses, who has quite clearly and evidently received this sign, is quite clearly and evidently God, because God was speaking directly, and also this whole thing with the bush being on fire but not being consumed. But Moses says the following in verse 11 of chapter 3. Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? Who am I to do that? And that touches on a little bit, like I said, this is kind of encapsulates all of them, because I think every theme that we've looked at thus far in this series is prevalent in the life of Moses. But that first week, when we looked at the fact that we look at ourselves more than we look at God, is so encapsulated here in verse 11, isn't it? Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? And then God's answer is quite simple. Verse 12. I will be with you, and this will be a sign to you that it's I who've sent you. When you brought the people out of Egypt, when you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this mountain. So there's reassurance immediately. There isn't frustration, annoyance, or anything else. There's reassurance straight away in that sense of I will be with you. I'm the person that's helping you do this. You've got this because I've got you. That's essentially what's being said, right? You are able to do this because I am able and I'm working through you. That's what God is saying. And that, for most of us, for all of us, rather, as Christians, should be reassurance enough. God's got me. And so many of us will have those phrases, those kind of glib phrases, like where it's like, God's got my back. I know that he's got me. I know that I'll be able to do this. But it's not enough for Moses. And quite frankly, oftentimes it's not enough for us, is it? Because we know that God's gone before us. We know that he's got plans and purposes for us. We know that he's prompting things in us, stirring things in us, and shaking things in us. And yet we still find ourselves reluctant to believe that actually it is God at all. Moses goes on to say in verse 13, suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what's your name? What shall I tell them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you're to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. And so these instructions continue, and it goes on for a while. It goes on for the rest of chapter 3 with God giving very specific instructions. It's clearly God speaking. It's clearly Moses that God wants for the job. But chapter 4 starts of Exodus in verse 1 with, what if they don't believe me or listen to me and they say the Lord did not appear to you? There's been so many signs, there's been so much indication that this is God and that Moses is the person for the job, because God doesn't do things by accident. And yet still Moses doubts. And so God changes tact. Verse 2, the Lord said, what is in your hand? A staff, he replied. And then what happens next is God says to Moses to throw the stick on the ground. It becomes a snake, picks it back up, it's a staff again. All of these sorts of signs to basically show, like, look, I am doing this. How much more indication that this is me do you need? I have just made your wooden staff turn into a snake. And I wonder in your day-to-day life when you've been nudged with particular things, like something's come up in conversation, someone's said something to you or said something to a friend that your friend has passed on to you. You read a sign on a bus that really just resonates with the particular season you're in. You're in your word, and then there's a particular area of scripture where you look at it and you're like, this is like speaking exactly into my situation right now, and I didn't even know I was going to be reading this passage today. Like, whether it's prayer, whether it's worship, there are so many ways in which God will speak, and he will nudge and he'll communicate to us, this is the way, walk in it. This is what I have for you. And we will doubt. We will doubt because we'll doubt ourselves. We'll doubt that it really is God. Are we just making it up? We'll doubt so many things. And we're not alone. Moses, one of the forefathers of the faith, had these same doubts. And so we should take this as encouragement. So after the staff and snake thing, then God does this thing where he says, put your hand in your cloak. He takes the hand out, it's leprous. He puts the hand back in. No, he puts the hand in, it's leprous. Takes it out, it's clean, etc., etc. Like back and forth, just again to show I'm doing this. God's saying, hello, this is me. This isn't actually anything to do with you. You're just the vessel. Stop doubting, because actually I'm the one that's working through you. I'm the one that's calling you to this in the first place. Now you'd think, okay, we've had a burning bush, we've had I will be with you, we've had stick into snake, we've had hand, leprous into healed. But verse 10 of chapter 4 says, pardon your servant, Lord. I've never been eloquent, neither in the past, nor since I've spoken to your servant. I'm slow of speech and tongue. You might think that God would start to get a bit impatient. Like, how much more do you need here, Moses? But in verse 11, God graciously says, who gave human beings their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go. I will help you speak. I will teach you what to say. A real commission there. I'm going to help you. You're the vessel. Remember, this is my mission, not your mission. You go and do the thing. Perhaps God's saying that to you right now, and you're being reminded of that even as I speak. You go and do the thing that I'm calling you to do. This isn't actually very much to do with you. Although you're a vessel, you're a conduit of whatever it is that I'm sharing. I'm the one sharing it. I'm just doing it through you because you're a person that is able to reach this particular group. But what does Moses say? Look at verse 13 of chapter 4. Pardon your servant, Lord. Please send someone else. And I just find that Moses is so relatable there. How much doubt must you have about whether or not God's really speaking to you, or whether or not you're really the person for the job, if you literally face God and say, send someone else. Send someone else. That's what he does. And that's why it's so important to take note about how doubt can creep in and really change the trajectory of what it is that we're called to do, where it is that we're called to go. Now, the story goes on to say that essentially God did get a bit angry at that point and said, okay, your brother Aaron, he can speak. He'll be the one that speaks. I'll tell you what to say. You can tell him what to say. It didn't need to happen that way, because God had commissioned Moses, and even though Moses had doubts about whether or not he was the person for the job, God didn't have doubts about the fact that he was the person for the job. Similarly, God doesn't have doubts that you are the person for the job that you are currently called to, whether that's the person in your family that you're called to be right now, in your workplace, in your business, in your ministry, in your new opportunity. God doesn't doubt that he's done the right thing in calling you to it, because God doesn't make mistakes. When he called you to that particular idea or thought or business or workplace or family or whatever it might be, it wasn't done by accident, because God doesn't create things that are just massive accidents, right? And so eventually Moses goes with Aaron, and that's where we continue the story of the Israelites going through Egypt and what that looks like. But what I want us to really land with today, and indeed for this series, is that doubt doesn't have to dictate our next steps. We might doubt. Doubt is normal. I will say, but we might doubt that we're the person for the job, that God's really spoken, that we're not just making it up, that, all the different doubts that creep in. But that doesn't mean that we don't have to act. We can still doubt, and action can still coexist. We can doubt in the sense of thinking, oh, what if I am just making it up? But in those instances, ask yourself, what's the very worst thing that could happen if you were making it up and it wasn't anything to do with God at all, and it was all you, and it was all in your head, and then you did this thing? What's the worst thing that could happen? And usually, more often than not, the answer is nothing that drastic would happen. I would have just made a mistake. And that's what happens in life, right? And so what about if we were to flip that and say, what's the best that could happen if I actually do say yes to partnering with God in this season? If I say yes to overcoming my doubt and deciding that actually what it is that God has within me is greater, and what he's commissioned me to, he will help me with, because he's not going to bring me to it if he can't bring me through it. He's not going to lead me to it if he's not also going to be the person that helps me to steward it and make it happen. What would happen if we thought those thoughts instead? And so you can look at Moses' story throughout Exodus 3 and 4 in terms of that. You can look at it for a lot more than that, but in terms of that particular instance with the doubting, if doubt is what's resonating with you right now, then I would definitely check that out. But I hope that this nurture note has been a blessing to you today, that it's giving you some real pause for thought and an opportunity for reflection. I will see you next week for a brand new series, which is a surprise. And so you want to subscribe so that you don't miss out on what it is that we're going to be sharing from next week. Until then, keep going, keep growing.